The Xyler council chamber shimmered like a cathedral carved from black crystal. Hundreds of glowing sigils pulsed across the walls, reflecting off the polished armor of the assembled warlords. At the center stood Captain Verex, kneeling on one knee, his mandibles twitching with restraint as the 12 elders loomed above him. "I saw them," he said, his voice echoing in the vast hall. "They build from ruin. They do not wait for orders or mercy. They improvise with madness and precision alike. If we strike them, they will fall," interrupted High Marshal Korthak, entering through the archway, his heavy armor hissing as it locked into place. "Like every primitive we have faced before." Verex looked up at him. "You mistake them for primitives because they bleed easily. But they learn. Each defeat only teaches them how to win the next war." Korthak gave a dry laugh, tail lashing. "Then we shall not give them time to learn. The humans expand without permission, mine our border worlds, and breed defiance. We will erase them swiftly. Efficiently." The council murmured in approval. Only one elder tilted her head, faintly uneasy. "You say they adapt, Captain? In what way?" Verex swallowed, remembering. "We destroyed their scout ship. 2 months later they had rebuilt it, stronger, faster, and using technology that wasn't theirs. I watched them pilot our own designs against pirates who had raided their colonies. They won. With pieces they didn't understand a week before." A low ripple of laughter followed. "Perhaps," said one elder, "they stole your imagination as well." The High Marshal's gaze turned sharp. "Enough of this superstition. The Dominion's honor demands an example. We will begin with their outer colony, Titan Base. It will serve as a reminder to the lesser species what happens when insects crawl too close to our stars." Verex rose halfway, daring defiance. "If you strike them, they will not stop until you regret existing. You will not understand their fury until it's too late." The guards moved instantly, forcing him back to his knees. Korthak stepped close, lowering his voice. "You let fear cloud your logic, Captain. That makes you useless to the Dominion." Verex met his eyes. "It's not fear that speaks, Marshal. It's experience." The council's verdict came swift and cold. "Captain Verex, stripped of rank and confined for cowardice. The matter of humanity is settled." As he was dragged away, he called over his shoulder, voice raw. "Do not attack the humans, they will hunt you forever." No one listened. The chamber doors sealed with a thundering hiss. Light years away, beneath the orange haze of Saturn, Titan Base thrived quietly. The colony dome shimmered with its artificial sky, the hum of life filling the corridors. Families dined beneath murals of Earth's oceans. Children played in low gravity, laughter echoing against titanium walls. Captain Elias Rain stood at the observation deck, coffee steaming in his hand, watching the storms swirl over Saturn's surface. After 20 years in the defense fleet, peace still felt foreign to him. His wife, Mira, joined him, hair tied loosely, eyes bright with contentment. "You stare at that planet like it's hiding something." Rain smiled faintly. "It reminds me of command briefings, quiet before the shouting starts." She nudged him playfully. "You've been out here 5 years and still can't relax. Maybe you just missed the chaos." "Maybe," he said softly. "Or maybe chaos just misses me." An alarm pulse flickered briefly on the console, static interference. Rain frowned, tapping the display. "That's odd. Long-range sensors are offline. Probably a solar flare," Mira said. He didn't answer. Instinct whispered otherwise. The display flickered again, then stabilized. The warning vanished. 3 hours later, the sky tore open. A shockwave rippled across the dome as streaks of white fire rained down. Rain was already moving before the sirens blared. "Mira, go to the shelter! Now!" "What's happening?" she shouted. "Orbital strike! Move!" The ground convulsed. Air vents exploded, fire curling through the hallways. The comm network flooded with screams. Rain sprinted to the command hub, sealing bulkheads behind him. "Defense grid online?" "Trying, sir. They're jamming everything, communication, radar, even local frequencies. On the main screen, 10 massive Xyler warships filled the upper atmosphere, raining plasma. The colony's shield collapsed within minutes. "Get the evacuation pods launched," Rain ordered. "They're targeting the launch bays." An explosion cut the officer off. The control deck went dark. Through cracked glass, Rain saw the colony dome shatter like glass under the bombardment. He slammed a fist against the console, powerless as fire consumed everything below. Myra's last transmission came through static, her voice trembling. "Elias, the shelter collapsed." The line went silent. Outside, the Xyler fleet hovered motionless for a moment, admiring their destruction. Then they departed, leaving nothing but a crater and silence. On the Obsidian Farm, High Marshal Korthak watched the feed of Titan's annihilation. "So ends their arrogance," he said. His adjutant, a young lieutenant, hesitated. "The humans will retaliate, sir?" Korthak smirked. "They are a noisy species. They will protest. We will ignore them. And soon they will accept their place." He didn't notice the silent transmission that slipped out from the wreckage, beamed toward Earth through fractured relay satellites, a single fragment of data embedded in static, recorded by a dying technician. When the transmission reached Earth Command 3 days later, it displayed 15 seconds of chaos, burning skies, collapsing domes, and the last words of a child screaming for help. The room went utterly still. Admiral Noor turned to her officers. "Any survivors?" "None detected." "What's the response from the Xyler Dominion?" "Denial. They call it an accident." Captain Elias Rain stood at the back of the room, uniform scorched from his rescue craft's crash landing, his expression unreadable. He had been pulled from the edge of Titan's orbit, found drifting among the debris. The Admiral looked at him. "You saw it happen." He nodded once. "They didn't attack by mistake." She waited for him to continue, but he only said one thing, each word cold and precise. "If they wanted war, they'll have it." Far across the void, in a cell carved from obsidian, Verex sat alone. Through a narrow viewport, he saw distant stars, one of them Sol, faint and small. He exhaled slowly, his breath misting against the glass. "They will come for you," he murmured, almost tenderly. "And when they do, they won't ask why." Outside his cell, Dominion guards laughed as propaganda filled the corridors. Victory at Titan. Humanity crushed. Verex closed his eyes. He could already feel the ripple traveling through the void, a silence that would soon roar. The sky above Earth was silent the day the fleet assembled. Hundreds of warships drifted in low orbit, their hulls black as obsidian, each marked with a single word etched in white: Titan. No speeches, no music, no broadcasted vows of revenge, only the hum of engines waiting for command. Humanity had buried its grief in steel. In the command hall of Earth Defense Central, Admiral Noor faced the Council of Nations. "The Dominion claims the destruction of Titan was a containment accident." A senator spat the words back. "Accident? They vaporized 20,000 people. The United Terran Fleet demands a response," said another. Noor gestured toward a shadowed figure at the back of the room. "You already have one." Captain Elias Rain stepped forward. His uniform bore no medals, only the black insignia of the Vanguard, the Terran Special Operations Division that didn't officially exist. He spoke quietly, each word measured. "This isn't retaliation. It's correction. They believe humanity incapable of consequence. That belief ends now." One counselor frowned. "You intend to declare war?" Rain's gaze was steady. "We don't declare. We act." Beneath the icy crust of Europa, hidden in a facility once used for mining research, engineers worked day and night on a captured Xyler beacon. The alien tech had survived Titan's fall, retrieved from debris. Under human hands, it became something else. "Reverse engineering complete," said Dr. Lee, pushing her glasses up. "The Dominion ships communicate through quantum relay signatures. We've mapped their frequencies." Rain leaned over the console. "Can we mimic them?" "Not exactly. But we can make them hear what we want," He nodded. Then we'll speak their language. Within a month, the first Echo units launched, autonomous strike drones built from salvaged Xyler designs. They didn't broadcast human signals. To enemy sensors, they looked like friendly ships. When the Dominion's patrols tried to refuel at border outposts, their own stations turned their guns inward. It began as confusion, glitches, misfires, strange malfunctions. By the time the Dominion realized something unnatural was happening, 5 warships had vanished, their black boxes corrupted with recordings of human voices whispering through the static. "We warned you." On the Obsidian Farm, High Marshal Korthak reviewed the reports in disbelief. "Ghost attacks?" he growled. "Explain." His adjutant trembled. "Sir, the humans, they've taken control of our relay systems. Every time we transmit, they listen. Every time we move, they're already there." Korthak slammed his fist against the table, the sound echoing like a cannon. "Impossible. They lack the technology." "Then what would you call this?" The adjutant brought up a hollow feed showing one of their refueling stations igniting from within. The audio feed captured the faint voice of a child laughing before the explosion. Korthak's eyes narrowed. "Savages." Earth didn't celebrate the attacks. There were no public briefings, no victory broadcasts. Instead, the defense fleet expanded in silence. The Vanguard's new doctrine was simple: fear is the weapon that never misses. At a strategy meeting aboard the Resolute, Rain addressed his officers. "They think we're still mourning. Good. Let them think that while we dismantle them piece by piece." Lieutenant Arya Kim, his communications lead, asked, "What's the limit, sir? How far do we go?" Rain paused, eyes on the hollow map of Xyler space. "Far enough that no one ever asked that question again." The next operation targeted a Dominion shipyard orbiting Kesh 4. Using falsified coordinates, the Vanguard lured their fleet into an empty system. As soon as they arrived, dormant human satellites awoke, each carrying kinetic warheads guided by repurposed mining AI. Rain's order was simple: no speeches. Fire. Thousands of tungsten rods fell like rain. The shipyard vanished under a storm of fire. Not a single human ship fired a beam. They never needed to. The Dominion responded with fury, sending the 7th Armada to sweep human colonies clean. Yet everywhere they arrived, they found silence, empty outposts, data erased, communications satellites looping fragments of human radio chatter from centuries-old broadcasts. Old songs, children laughing, recordings of oceans. The quiet unnerved them more than any weapon. One Xyler commander ordered a planetary bombardment of an abandoned human base. His fleet was obliterated moments later when its own missiles detonated mid-launch. The Dominion realized too late that the base had been a trap, its entire atmosphere seeded with nanodust that turned their weapons guidance systems against them. Korthak watched the footage, his pride cracking under the weight of confusion. "They are animals," he muttered. "Animals don't plan this." Varex's voice echoed in his mind, words he had dismissed as cowardice. "They don't stop bleeding." In the months that followed, the Dominion's border collapsed. Trade routes vanished. Their colonies went dark. The propaganda networks kept broadcasting assurances of control, but no one believed them anymore. Inside his cell, Varex heard the panic in the guard's whispers. 3 sectors lost. The humans are everywhere." He leaned against the wall, a faint smile curving his scarred face. "Not everywhere," he murmured. "Just close enough to listen." On board the Resolute, Rain stood before the observation deck, Earth hanging small and blue behind him. He looked like a man carved from exhaustion. Commander Osei joined him. "Fleet reports 100% mission success across the outer reach." "Good," Rain said. "Command wants to know your next move." He studied the darkness beyond the viewport. "We keep striking, not for vengeance, but for memory. They thought we'd scream. Instead, we whisper." Osei frowned. "Whisper what?" "That we're coming." When the Dominion finally traced one of the human signals, they followed it to a barren asteroid field. The ship they found drifting there was a Xyler cruiser, one of their own, its hull scorched but intact. Boarding teams entered cautiously, weapons drawn. The bridge was empty, lights flickering. At the center of the room, a single console blinked with a playback message. The commander pressed it. A human face appeared, pale, cold-eyed. Captain Elias Rain. "I told you," he said evenly. "You started a fire you can't put out. You thought we'd vanish. We adapt. We endure. You call us fragile. That's true. But that's what makes us dangerous. We have nothing left to lose." The recording ended. The ship's core detonated. None of the boarding teams made it out. The Dominion's morale disintegrated. Fleets refused to deploy, fearing ambush. Entire systems went dark without a shot fired. Korthak raged at his council, smashing his claws into the table. "They strike from nowhere. What kind of creatures do this?" An old warlord answered quietly. "The kind who remember." The High Marshal turned toward the stars outside. "Then we'll remind them who rules this galaxy." He didn't realize that every word he spoke was being recorded through his ship's communication grid, rerouted by human algorithms, already replaying his rants across a dozen enemy channels. By the time he discovered the breach, it was too late. The Dominion's fleets heard his outbursts broadcast as if mocking them. They strike from nowhere. Panic followed. Commanders suspected betrayal. Paranoia spread faster than truth. In the silence of deep space, the Resolute received confirmation: Dominion forces retreating from 7 systems. Arya Kim looked up from her console. "They're falling apart, sir." Rain didn't celebrate. He studied the data, voice low. "No empire dies cleanly. When it breaks, it takes the world with it. We need to finish this before desperation makes them reckless." She hesitated. "And if it's already too late?" He turned away from the viewport. "Then we remind them what desperation really looks like." Somewhere on a forgotten prison world, Verex looked to the sky, feeling the vibrations of distant explosions ripple through the crust. The Dominion he had served all his life was crumbling. He whispered to the stars, almost a prayer. "You warned them, and they laughed. Now they will understand what it means to wake a species that doesn't forget." Far away, the human fleet advanced through the void, silent as ghosts. The retaliation was complete. The hunt had only begun. The Dominion was dying, though few of its rulers would admit it aloud. Entire fleets had gone silent, colonies erased from star maps. The war that had begun as a swift punishment had turned into a ghost story whispered among soldiers, humans, the unyielding shadows that struck without warning and vanished without trace. High Marshal Korthak stood before a fractured galactic map. Every red marker, once signifying Dominion control, was now dimmed or gone. He turned to his last surviving strategist. "How many systems remain under our command?" The aide hesitated. 3, perhaps 4. Communications are failing everywhere. Our ships won't respond to central orders. Korthak's voice was a low growl. "Then we fight for what remains. Send the fleet to the Kesh perimeter. We end this here." He didn't realize that his transmission had already been intercepted. On board the Resolute, Captain Elias Rain listened in silence as the Dominion's final command pulsed through the decrypted feed. His officers gathered around, faces lit by the faint glow of the holomap showing the Kesh system. "They're concentrating forces here," said Commander Osei. "That's desperation. They're pulling everything they have left." Dr. Lee studied the data. "If we hit them head-on, we risk losing half the fleet." Rain's tone was calm, deliberate. "We don't hit them head-on. We hit their mind first." Lieutenant Arya Kim looked up. "Psychological?" He nodded. "We've taken their systems, their confidence, their communication. Now we take their belief in victory." 2 days later, the Dominion's remaining armada entered Kesh space, hundreds of warships surrounding their command vessel. The atmosphere was thick with tension. No enemy in sight, only the cold stars. Then the lights flickered. At first, it seemed a power fluctuation. But then, the navigation panels displayed words that chilled the entire bridge crew. "Hello again." Panic rippled through the fleet. Comms officers shouted over one another. Unknown source. It's in our core systems. The words changed. We warned you. One officer slammed a switch to shut down the system. Too late. Every screen in the Dominion fleet blinked to a single image, Earth. Blue, calm, distant. Then came the voice. Calm. Human. Rains. You wanted war. You wanted to prove dominance. All we wanted was peace. You burned that chance, and now you stand before the consequence. Silence followed, then chaos. Dominion ships began firing at phantom signals, convinced they were under attack. Their targeting systems had been hijacked. Missiles launched toward false readings. Korthak roared over comms. Stop firing! It's an illusion! But the fear had already taken hold. On the Resolute, Rain watched the battle unfold in real time. Osei frowned. They're destroying themselves. They always were, Rain said quietly. We just held up the mirror. Should we finish it? Arya asked. Rain didn't answer immediately. He stared at the swirling lights of the Kesh system, then gave a single nod. Yes. No survivors. End it. The human fleet emerged from behind the system's twin moons, sleek warships armed with the newest rail cannons and plasma drives. The Dominion scanners barely registered them before the first volley struck. Lines of blue light ripped through the darkness, silent and precise. Ships folded in on themselves, crushed by kinetic rounds traveling faster than thought. Every Dominion counterattack missed, their targeting corrupted by the echo network that had infected their systems weeks ago. Push them into orbit, Rain ordered. No mercy. The Vanguard squadrons descended like a tide. Within an hour, the Dominion's final fleet was gone, hundreds of vessels reduced to drifting debris glowing faintly in the Kesh sun. Inside the wreckage of his command ship, Korthak stumbled toward the bridge, smoke curling from the walls. Bodies lay twisted across the floor. A transmission beacon blinked weakly. Someone was calling him. He activated it. Varex's face appeared on the cracked screen, pale and thin from imprisonment. So, Varex said, his voice low. You finally understand. Korthak bared his teeth. You betrayed us. No, Varex replied. I warned you. You thought humanity would beg for survival. Instead, they taught you what survival means. Korthak snarled, slamming his clawed hand on the console. We are warriors! We do not fall to prey! Varex's expression hardened. You mistook patience for weakness. You saw compassion and thought it cowardice. You learned too late that humanity's greatest weapon isn't technology or numbers. It's memory. The transmission cut. Seconds later, the obsidian fong detonated, consumed in blue fire. The war ended not with treaties or surrender, but with silence. The Dominion vanished from the galactic stage, its remaining colonies isolated, its culture shattered. Human fleets withdrew to the sole frontier, leaving only wreckage behind. Earth's skies filled again with returning ships, engines burning like falling stars. There were no celebrations. Just quiet acknowledgement. Humanity had survived, but at a cost they all felt beneath the victories. In the council chamber, Admiral Nor addressed the gathered nations. We've ensured our safety for now. But this victory must never make us blind. The galaxy watched us become what we had to be. Fear will follow us for generations. Rain stood in the back, silent, his face unreadable. When the meeting ended, he walked to the observation deck where the planet turned beneath him, blue, fragile, and possibly alive. Arya joined him. We did it, she said softly. Did we? He asked. Or did we just prove them right, that humanity only understands survival through destruction? She hesitated. Maybe both. He looked at her, weary eyes catching the reflection of Earth. Then we'll have to live long enough to prove otherwise. Months later, a single Xyler distress signal reached deep space relays, weak, flickering. A cargo freighter found the source, a drifting pod containing one survivor. Varex. When he awoke in a human medical bay, he found Rain sitting nearby. You could have left me, Varex said hoarsely. Could have, Rain agreed. But we're not like you. Varek studied him, then sighed. No. You're worse. You'll hunt us, and when there's no one left to fight, you'll turn that fire inward. Rain stood. Maybe. But unlike you, we'll remember why it started. He walked away, leaving the alien staring at the ceiling, haunted by the reflection of a blue world in the glass. Years later, the galaxy still spoke of the humans, the species that refused extinction, that answered annihilation with silence and precision. Empires redrew their borders, careful not to cross the line of soul. In the dark archives of a distant world, an old Dominion recording survived, Rain's intercepted broadcasts from Kesh. It played endlessly in the ruins, a voice echoing across forgotten halls. You thought we were fragile. You were right. But you forgot what fragility does. It adapts, endures, evolves. You wanted a war. What you started was evolution. From orbit, Earth shimmered beneath the sunlight. The scars of Titan were gone, but its memory lived in the names etched on the Vanguard's walls. Every soldier, every engineer, every lost soul who'd forged the vengeance that ended an empire. Humanity had won, but victory had no taste of triumph, only of permanence. Rain, now older, watched the sunrise from his ship's viewport, voice barely above a whisper. We told them to run. Beside him, Arya answered. They should have listened. He nodded once, the faintest trace of sorrow in his eyes. Because when humanity hunts. He paused, gaze fixed on the horizon. We never stop.